who are large philanthropists in the community or who are CEOs of hospitals. So Primary Children's CEO, Katie Wilkie, is on it. David Entwistle, the CEO of the University of Utah Hospitals, is on it. We didn't get anybody from Shriners yet because they've churned a few. But so it's a really important group for us to grow. And we increased the number of Adopt-A-Meals in 2014 to 797 compared to 587 in 2013. So when we opened the family room, everybody said, oh, you can't do Adopt-A-Meal up there because it's going to poach all of your volunteers from the house and you're going to burn everybody out and it's too big and people will be overwhelmed by the number of families they have to prepare for and it's never going to work. And we're like, yeah, it's going to work. And not only did we add hundreds of Adopt-A-Meals at the family room, but we provided more Adopt-A-Meals at the house than we ever had, even with more people to prepare for, right? And this is a huge shout out. So the meals, I think Lauren deserves a huge amount of credit for, and the volunteer hours. So we almost doubled the number of volunteers and volunteer hours 2014 to 2013, which is huge. And part of why we did the restructuring with the hospitality, guest services, volunteer, because it's absolutely enormous, the amount of volunteer support this charity relies on. The next question I think about is, are we efficient? Are we fiscally responsible and sound? Is the charity better off than we found it? And I would say yes. I always think about, are we leaving the balance sheet better than we found it the year before? Did we leave it better than we found it generally? So when you walk away from a job, I think it's important to always say, well, I'm walking away for a new opportunity, but did you leave it better than you found the place? And then you can walk away proudly because you know you did your piece, right? So yes, with our amazing development team and guest services teams, we exceeded our revenue goals. We created a new investment policy statement that is sort of a map for financial sustainability for the charity, which is a really important thing. We completed an initial review of our IT needs. We know that technology is a huge issue for us and a weakness that we have to work on. And so I think we did some good work to identify what those weaknesses are. And of course, we equipped, furnished, moved into a new 40,000 square foot Ronald McDonald House while continuing to operate. And we learned a new phone system, new security system, new card key system, and new mechanical systems, again, while continuing to do our day-to-day work. And I think our board is very strong. So I also think about strategic leadership. The board is very strong and engaged. And the communication is quite healthy on our board. So there's not a lot of parking lot conversations. I feel like people are able to, by and large, bring issues to the table with everybody present so that action can be taken in a healthy way and not a weird power triangular kind of a way. We developed last year refined strategic objectives for each committee. So what we tried to do is to line up the goals for each committee so they're supporting one another and everybody knows what everybody's doing. And instead of one committee having 18 goals for the year or things they're working on and another committee having 2, we tried to say, let's just work on like 4 or 5 core strategic things. And because we wanted everybody to be on the same page, working toward the same goals. And we completed the site remediation. So this building was built on what was a gas station. And that meant that there was a lot of work that had to be done to remove soils. And we installed, well, we've spent about $250,000 on remediation. So soils removal, a capping system, a ventilation system under the building. And there are now monitors, air monitors. There are 3 100-foot test wells on the site. And we did all of that, and it was a huge amount of work, but it was so important because our families are vulnerable. Their health is vulnerable, and we didn't want benzene in the air causing problems. So we sort of went overboard, and I feel really proud of all the work that was done on that. In terms, and I think that we truly completed what was a long-term, really aggressive vision. I could get hysterical laughing. But in terms of gaps, when I think about gaps, I think, first of all, well, we still turned away 468 families last year. And we haven't sold House 3. And one of the key gaps is that our operating expenses right now are growing at a faster rate than our revenue, which you don't want to have happen. So we are a very healthy charity in terms of having reserves, and you will always want your revenue to outperform your expenses in terms of rate. And it's standard during a time of growth to have this tension. And the board was adamant that we grow out our positions to plan for growth. And so we knew we were doing that proactively, and they're committed to garnering the resources to make this all happen. And I have a lot of confidence in our ability to do that. And it's something we have to really pay attention to, because there are a lot of charities that have grown out in terms of their capital facilities, and then they can't sustain their expanded operations. So it's a really important thing to pay attention to. And then lastly, in terms of a gap, the staff continue to feel overwhelmed. I still sense that. And people are still managing their way through a huge amount of change that has happened in the last few years. And people are really trying to get grounded. And it sounds to me like the staff want more training, more conversations. And for me, that's why this year is all about the core, caring for the core. So that's probably more than you ever wanted to hear. And based on that, do you have any questions, or do you want more info? I'm going to share even more with you right now. Anyone? Good? Okay. Here we go. Let's see if the technology will work for us again. See if you can sign in on your password. How are we all doing? You all right? Yeah. Good? Okay? We okay?
I have a joke.
Good, a joke, yes. Anytime you have a joke, please, yeah.
You see these little, what is this called? Clothespin. If you want to give a good joke for Christmas, you say, here's a washer and dryer, and you give them a little clothespin, and then you give them one of those washers that you know, engineering, you know what a washer is. The little tiny, bolt, like a bolt. Yeah. So you give them a washer and a dryer.
Okay, we're going to do the year-end summary. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, if you have jokes, you can interrupt at any point if you've got a joke. If it's funny, like that. That was pretty funny, you know. If it's not funny, don't interrupt. Just kidding, that was really funny. Okay. So I'm going to show you this is the year-end unaudited profit and loss for the charity. So we have our audit that is going to begin next month, and there will be a lot of reclassifications and adjustments because the year-end financials don't include a bunch of things, a lot of revenue that then gets adjusted, like earnings on investments, realized and unrealized earnings on investments, interest income, in kind. So this gets adjusted significantly, but it's something to share. So what I wanted to quickly show you is the year-end P&L for the charity. So you can see that our budget for revenue was $1.6 million. So in 2014, the board approved a budget with a deficit, knowing that the plan was to borrow from reserves because we're in a process of growth. Everybody knows that. So we budgeted conservatively and budgeted $1.6 million, and we raised $1.8. So we outperformed the budget by $225,000 in revenue, which is about 113% of goal. And you can see those various line items. So we did really well with corporate contributions. We did really well with room revenue. We did really well with gala. Gala, see this is like the biggest variance. We did really well with our Grand Givers Club. And then we have some line items that we didn't do as well with, like general contributions or family room contributions. And then this is the total of expenses. And I can go back to the prior screen. So the expenses are at 105% of budget. So and the variance is really attributed to in-kind. So every year we budget $65,000 for in-kind because you never know the value of in-kind stuff you're going to get. And so that skews everything a little bit. So when you take that out, we were actually under budget. And then this income and expense refers to the capital campaign and depreciation and capital income and expenditures outside of